So if someone sees an indie book that, is priced at like $9.99, like in your mind, you might be thinking, I want to give people like a really good value for their money. And I get that. I think that's noble. That's terrific. But price your books the same way a trad publisher would price it. Show that you can hang with the big boys, that your book is just as good as a lot of the trad stuff out there where they're charging like $18 to $22 for a paperback. Because if people see a really low priced indie title, they're going to assume, oh, it's just not that good. This person's desperate to sell them. They're not selling well, so he keeps lowering the price. No, price your book like a normal trad book. Do it. It shows people you're for real.
Before we get into today's conversation, I just want to ask you for one quick favor. If you are watching this on YouTube or Spotify, whatever platform you are on, if you could subscribe to the channel, it helps us out tremendously in reaching new authors, new listeners, new people who are just looking to grow their author career or maybe wondering how to get started. And at the end of the day, that is why I am doing this. I enjoy these conversations with other authors so much, and I want to help authors like you to build their business. So hit the like button, leave a comment. Those things help so much. Most of all, subscribe. And to those of you who have already subscribed, because we have seen some good growth this last month, first of all, thank you. Second of all, if you could hit the share button and share this with a friend who you think might also get some value out of these conversations, that would help me out tremendously, and I appreciate it so much. So today I am chatting with Aaron Hall. Aaron is a good friend of mine. We have chatted a lot on social media, and today, funny enough, we are talking about social media. Aaron left his job 18 months ago, not by choice, but he took that and tried to make it full-time as an author. It has taken him a while, and we talk about persistence in this episode. We talk about some of the strategies he used on social media in order to find his audience. And we talked about what finally enabled him to go from making some income online to making a full-time income in just over a year. This is a fun conversation. We cover a wide range of topics, everything from selling paperbacks to online marketing and a number of other topics. There's something here for everyone. I had a great time chatting with Aaron, and I hope you have a great time as well. Thank you for listening. Now let's get on with the conversation. Hello and welcome once again to the Pint & Portal Author Podcast. I am so excited. I have a familiar face to many of you. If you have been on social media at all, you may have thought he was a chef of some kind, but he in fact is an author, and I am so excited to chat with Aaron Hall today. Welcome here, Aaron.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And I'm so excited to have you here. We've kind of been crossing paths on social media. We've chatted a bit online, but never face to face. So this is awesome. And I'm super excited for the opportunity to chat with you today.
Totally. I'm excited too. And we do kind of write similar genres because I feel like you're kind of in that cozy fantasy realm, and The Legend of Us like cozy adjacent. So it works out.
Yeah. And my cozy fantasy as well is a little bit on the less cozy side of cozy fantasy. The thing about cozy fantasy is that it's such a newer subgenre that there's a wide spectrum of definition, right? So It goes anywhere from the slice of life, super cozy, you're opening a coffee shop and serving coffee, and you're basically reading about somebody playing Animal Crossing, all the way up to, a cozy adventure where the stakes are maybe not as high as, a typical fantasy book. And It's a lot of fun. And I think Legend of Awe definitely falls into that category. And I think Flower and Forge is pretty close to that sort of model. It's an adventure, but a feel-good adventure. So yeah, we have some crossover readers, I am sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel bad that I haven't read any of your work yet, but I mean, you know how it is. You have so many friends who are like
100%.
indie authors, and you want to support everybody, but there's so many books to read.
There are. You just cannot get to any of them, and I have zero expectations of, especially other authors. Authors that read, that are working full time, they have a family, and they somehow still read 100 books a year. while writing 3 books a year. I don't understand if these people are just not sleeping, because I definitely can't do it. If it weren't for
Yeah,
audiobooks, I wouldn't have read a single book this year. So I hear
yeah.
you. No worries at all.
I'm at like we're halfway through April, or more than halfway through April at the time of this recording, and I've finished like maybe 8 books this year. So I'm behind
Yeah,
my goal. I wanted to do 50 this year, but I'm slacking hard.
for sure. I'm about the same boat, around 8. And yeah, I wanted to do about one a week. And it's just tough. There's so many competing
Yeah,
priorities that you just can't fit
exactly.
everything in, right? And
Yep.
the previous iteration of the podcast, it was more about book promo than anything.
Mhm.
I was trying to read people's books that were coming on the show, and I just could not keep up. And that's one of the reasons I had
Yeah,
to stop, because I'm like, I just cannot keep up, because I want to have an intelligent conversation with people about their book, especially if that's
totally.
all we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
I have read Legend of I was
Yeah,
fortunate
thank
enough
you
to get
so
an art
much.
copy from you, and I
Yeah,
loved it. It was so much fun.
thank
And
you. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the sequel, which is coming out. Well, by the time this is out, it should already be out. So, for those of our listeners who maybe don't know who you are, can you give us a little bit of just a quick background of who you are, your publishing journey up until this point?
Totally. So I started writing my first full-length novel when I was 16, and published it when I was 22, 23, a sophomore in college. Self-published it. I mean, self-publishing was just becoming a thing. The year was
Great.
2014, and I wrote off and on for several years as I was, completing school and
Mm,
working a full-time job. But I really buckled down and started writing consistently back in like 2019. And as of right now, the day that we're recording is April 23rd. So in 5 days, the second Legend of my 10th book will be releasing. And yeah, I do a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, and the Legend of is doing really well. It's become my flagship series.
yeah, very cool. 10 books. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
quite a milestone. And so now, did you have, I feel like I'm missing maybe one. Did you have a book in between The Legend of and The Return, or is this the next
I
release?
did. I did. I released a collection of stories and poems called Where Should I Put
Okay.
This Woodpecker? That was just a very quiet release. I didn't put too much into it, but it came out last July. And yeah, it's a lot of stories, poems, and shopping lists that kind of revolve around this theme of grief, because my
Okay.
dad passed away a couple years ago, and I was,
Great.
writing some things that were kind of like, I don't know, processing what I was feeling. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to market a book that's a collection of stories and poems. I mean, there's a very, very
Yeah.
small market for that, but those who have read the book really enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those niche things, and one of those projects that you kind of write for. I mean, you're writing it for you, and you put it out there, and if other people enjoy it, then that's a bonus, right? So
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So yeah. And sorry to hear about your dad. I know that was a big part of Legend of for you as well. You talked a lot about that when, when the book came out. I think is when
Mhm.
that was happening. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are losing your dad if you're close. I mean, that's always something that is tough to deal with. I've been there too.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, you understand. It's really hard,
yeah.
but you live every day and you move forward, and you that's the best you can do.
Yeah, yeah, well, exactly, right? So, I mean, I'm glad that your writing has continued, and I'm glad that you've returned to The Legend of But, so recently as well, I understand that you have shifted to being a full-time writer. Um,
Mhm.
and maybe not entirely by choice, but can you tell us a little bit about that transition, and what I guess the event that happened, I kind of know a little bit about it, but what happened, and then what made you decide that full-time writing could fill that gap?
Oh, so, I mean, for several years after graduating college, I worked various jobs in marketing, project management, public relations, and ultimately the goal was always to write full time. That was the dream, being a full time author where I could just write books and sell them and
Yeah.
get by that way. And but the dream always felt very far off. And I was writing The Legend of Oz. I was working my most recent day job, and then I bought my first condo. I was very excited about it. I was finally a homeowner. It's little, it's just big enough for me, which is great. But 3 weeks after that, I got laid off from my job. They said, yeah, just the worst timing. They said, yeah, we're
Yeah.
so sorry, but there's been a mistake in our accounting. We realize we can't afford to pay you. So sorry. And that was my last day. So, just became a homeowner. I have a mortgage now, and now I'm without a job. And thankfully, I had some money saved up, but I knew it wasn't going to last forever. So I
Mhm.
was like, I'm going to start working and like applying for a ton of jobs, but I'm also going to be doing my writing thing, because now I have all
Yeah.
this time. So yeah, for the last year and a half, that's what it's been. I mean, thankfully, I've had some really great mentors and people like Zach Diamanti, ZS
Oh,
Diamanti.
good. Yeah.
He's really, taught me a lot about content production and building your own online store and kind of like making it
Mm.
your business because he is a full time fantasy author.
Yeah,
And
right.
yeah, I mean, I was just very lucky where The Legend of after its release, just kind of picked up momentum month after month until it
Nice.
finally got to the point very recently where like I am able to make ends meet through book sales. I'm
Nice.
not living large, I'm not, making a bunch of money, but I'm making enough to get by. And as
Right.
long as I'm consistent with it and posting regularly on my social media and coming out with new books, like I'm going to be okay. And yeah, I've just recently started calling myself a full time author, probably within like the last month. So this is all very
Wow.
new. And it is kind of weird to realize like I'm living my dream, but it looks so much different than I thought it was going to.
Okay.
So very, very blessed, but also very tired and working very hard every day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, and shout out to Zach. I mean, Zach has helped so many authors out. He's a good buddy of mine. So, I mean, that's great to hear because I know that, yeah, he went through that same process, a few years ago. And the first episode of the rebrand was with him and we chatted about what that looked like for him to get to
Hmm.
the point where he is now. So so when you made that decision to focus on your writing, and that you were going to make it work, what did you decide at that point that your focus was going to be to bring you to get you to that point? Because like you said, it didn't happen overnight. It's been a year and a half, and now
Sure.
after 18 months of doing this full time, like a full time pace, whether or not you've been getting paid full time for it, you're at that point now. So you obviously had a vision or a plan that got you to this point. So how did you start at that point to get to where you are now?
Totally. Well, a lot of it was just organic content creation, doing stuff through social media. It was a little over a year ago. Zach was staying with me for StoryCon in Salt Lake City. And while he stayed with me, I just picked his brain. How do you make this work? How do you live as a full-time, indie fantasy author? And one thing he said to me was like, dude, you need to be posting on social like a lot more. You need to be posting every day, every other day, like 5 reels a week, point towards your books, have a plan, and just plug yourself. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't like being on social media a lot. I
Mm.
just, I don't want to be so self promotional." But his thing was, do you want to sell books? Do you want to sell books? And I was like, dang, you're so right. So yeah,
Right.
I made a plan where I was going to post 5 reels a week across Instagram and TikTok. And each piece of content was meant to be entertaining, point towards my books, and just make sure I'm not being a jerk, online. Yeah, and it was just a lot of experimentation after that, like trying different content to see what would take off, like what would generate more sales, and just over time, the book just built its audience. So yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it was just organic content.
Yeah. Cool, cool. Yeah, it's funny because I'm finding myself saying this to myself primarily a lot, but I've had a few author friends that I've been talking to too. And, just the comment, do you want to sell books or do you want to not do this? Like what do you want more?
Hmm.
Basically, because that's, it's everything kind of comes down to a choice. And yeah,
Yep,
you might not like doing social media, but do you like doing social media more than you like not selling books? So,
totally.
it's a lot of this is so much about experimentation and being willing to try things that push you outside of your comfort zone, right?
Yes, yes, big time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I feel like this last year and a half has been just a stream of things that push me out of my comfort zone, where it's like, I know success, I know more book sales and like widening my audience is on the other side of this thing I don't want to do.
Hmm.
My latest thing is trying to master meta ads, Facebook ads. And
Okay.
I hate it so much. Whoever built that over there at Meta is just, I don't know. I think they're a masochist and they just kind of like inflicting pain on people because it's so poorly built and unintuitive.
It really is.
It's a way to reach more people that may not be following me on socials. So here we go.
Yeah, 100% right. And I think you've built a good base with your organic content and that, you're not just jumping right into the ads. So you kind of have a sense of what's working at least for your social media page at least. And you're able to
Sure.
kind of expand on that then with the ads, right? I've seen. some other authors with success doing that. I've
Hmm.
struggled with that too, so I totally get it. I've given more money to Meta and Facebook than I've ever gotten in, in return.
I understand.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a learning curve. Like you're completely right. So I'm interested when you're talking about the three objectives that you had: be entertaining, showcase your book, don't be a jerk. Those are great
Hmm.
goals because I think there's a lot of people that do two out of three, or one out of three, or none
Hmm.
out of three. There's a lot of people that are showcasing their book and they're entertaining, but then are jerks, and that just destroys the whole thing.
Hmm.
But so when you were looking at building your platform, did you how did you go about deciding on the style of videos that you were doing? Because I mean, there's a million ways to do organic TikToks and Instagrams. How did you decide on the format? Did you try a few different things? I know you have you have a few things that I've seen on social media. Is it the same as what you did initially, or how many iterations of that did it take you to find something that stuck?
Gosh, it's funny you mentioned this because I actually I originally made a content ideas document on,
Oh,
like
really?
Google Drive, just so if I came up with an idea for a video or like a reel or a carousel that might be entertaining and work, I wrote it down. And seeing the things that I wrote down when I was first getting started like a year ago, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can see how you think that might work, but actually you probably want to do more of this." It's just a learning and growing process. But I mean, a lot of it was just experimentation, dude. I mean, a lot of it was
Yeah.
just, I have this idea, we're gonna record it and post it and see how it goes, because that's a lot of what, marketing is just,
Hmm.
20% sticking to what works and 80% trying new things. So I'm
Right.
always making different kinds of content. I mean, I feel like I have settled on reels. I like video content
Hmm.
translates really well across Instagram and TikTok and Facebook Reels and YouTube Shorts. Like they're really versatile. So I've liked settling on that. I don't do carousels and static images very often at all, but the video
Hmm.
stuff works really well for me.
Was it so? Is that choice more? Is it preference, or is it just you weren't seeing the same result from doing the carousels and static
It's
posts?
both. I mean,
Yeah.
carousels get a lot of views sometimes, but I find that the reels typically perform the best for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's like doing a video gives me a better opportunity to show me and my personality, and because I know how to be funny, which is a really big benefit to me and my brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's works for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's great when because obviously what you write has a lot of humor in it. So it's great that you can bring that humor into your social media content as well, because then people get a sense of who you are, your sense of humor, and
Hmm.
then when they pick up your book, it feels familiar because they've already seen your personality come through.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so was that an intentional decision when you started making your content? Or is that just what comes naturally to you? It comes out in your content and then it comes out in your content when you're writing because that's just who you
I
are.
think it's just a happy coincidence because yeah, like The Legend of is a fantasy comedy series and I'm making funny videos, but I use humor to reel people in. I bet even if I was writing something grimdark, I could use humor to pull people in and show them my book. And,
Mhm.
they might not feel terribly betrayed to find out oh, this book is actually really epic and dark. You just have to present it in the right way. But I definitely do feel like there is that sense of consistency between the funny online content and the funny books that people kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just a kind of happy accident that they both line up that way.
Yeah. Do you think though that if you were to write a grim dark fantasy or, something maybe a little less humorous than The Legend of I'm sorry, I'm not as familiar with your other works, so I don't know how much humor is in those. But so how much do you think you probably how much would you work in humor to other genres? Do you think would there be funny moments in Grimdark? Like there'd still be funny characters and
Absolutely.
that sort of thing? Like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because the first fantasy series that I wrote is like a YA epic fantasy. It's not comedy, but it definitely does have these moments of levity to kind of lighten up, the mood occasionally. And you look at The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie, it's, kind of one of these pinnacles of grimdark fantasy, but it's deceptively hilarious. There are so many
Right.
scenes in the book where I'm like, this is funny. What this is
Yeah.
that I so I think I would approach it in a very similar way. I don't think I could really truly separate myself from humor. But I do have an idea for an epic grimdark fantasy that I would like to write someday, probably when the Legends of are complete. But yeah, it's like I'll find moments to squeeze in a joke and kind of lighten the mood occasionally when it fits. I don't think I'd be having a good time if I didn't.
Yeah, right. I asked because I mean, it feels like, and whether intentionally or not, it's really become a part of your brand, right?
Hmm.
And so I feel like, if someone even were to pick up something that's a little darker or maybe not meant to be a comedy, they're gonna find your humor in that work still, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So how long after you started, so Zach convinces you need to start posting to social media. You start posting, 5 times a week. How long did it take before you realized, hey, there's something here?
Gosh, I mean, it's The Legend of was selling steadily and quietly for like months, but it was when that first caveman cooking video dropped, when I started posting it more often, that sales started to pick up bit by bit because suddenly like millions of people were seeing this book. I wasn't showing them a lot about the book. I was just squeezing them into these like silly cooking videos, but millions of people were starting to see the book, and some people were getting interested and ordering it on Amazon or whatever. And yeah, that's when things started to move. But it was in February where I made a video where, and it was not anything I had planned. I was just staying with my mom, and I decided to make this video that was like the four horsemen of making men love reading again. And, I put in The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman, and The Legend of by Aaron N. Hall. And that
Nice.
video went weirdly viral on every platform. Like on every
Interesting.
platform, it was getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. So my book sales just shot up, in the
Wow.
matter of like a week. And it
Right.
kind of like rode that high for a little bit and has never settled down to where it was before. Like it's
Wow.
selling consistently day by day at this rate that's like you can barely make your means just based off book sales you can see in front of you. Now that doesn't include like audiobooks that'll come in like a couple months or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, like it's organic content's been everything for me, man. It's just I feel
Yeah.
very lucky, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And I mean, and it's such a cool hook too, because obviously anyone who's read those three very popular books and have enjoyed them are like, okay, but I don't know this fourth one, and we'll go
Exactly.
check it out. And if you're able to get that reach and find something that hits, that's fantastic. Especially
Mhm.
on something like that. That's really great because I think my most viral video was the one video that I did not post my own book because I was
Mhm.
just trying to, it was actually during my transition between sci-fi and cozy fantasy. And I was
Mhm.
trying to like just build a cozy fantasy audience at the time. And so I did something pretty similar. I was like, cozy fantasy books you might enjoy. And I included like four other books, but my cover wasn't ready yet. So I didn't have it in there. I was just trying to like train the algorithm, right? And yes,
Right.
and I got it wasn't that viral. It was still something like, but it was something like 120,000 views, which is
That's
huge,
terrific.
by far the biggest hit. But it didn't have my book, and I was like, oh,
Uh
missed
oh yeah.
opportunity. And
Yeah, if
yeah,
if you had your book in there, like that could have been a great spark.
right, yeah. So I mean, I've been chasing that high ever since.
Mhm, aren't we all? But, what you could do is, like, just take that same video, redo it, the exact same concept, and plug your book
I
in
have
there.
I have done it so many times trying to get the
I
same
gotcha.
reaction and just is not. It just liked it that day. Sometimes, especially TikTok, it just hits the right rate the one day and that's it. And hey, it's fine. You know what? I have no real complaints because social media has been good for me as well.
Uh-huh.
So it just that sort of you know viral video, that was my only one. And it was like the only book I didn't have, or the only one I didn't have my own book in. So that's all
Mhm,
I say that. So I'm glad you had your book and the one that went viral, and it wasn't something that you just randomly decided to do to do, and
mhm.
then it worked out for you. So that was February that you had that viral video. But obviously, so I mean that would have been
Couple
12,
months
14
ago.
months in from when you started. Were you still seeing the gradual increase up until that flash in the pan, or was it kind of flat up until that point? Like, what did that trajectory look like?
It was flat. I mean, I think
Okay.
I sold like 100 books the month that the second or The Legend of came out, and for me, that was, like,
Okay.
huge before
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
because
That's
none
a
of my
good.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sold, maybe I can pull up my stats. No, we'll not do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Just
yeah, it sold, like, slowly and steadily for, like, 4 or 5 months, but it was around July, August that I started posting the caveman cooking videos once a week that, like, bit by bit, like, sales picked up, a little bit month over month, to where in December, I think I sold like 400 books for the month. And I was like, well, this is amazing. I sold 400 books this month.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
then February was when it just like popped off. And, I went from selling like 400 or 500 books a month to like 1,200 books a month.
Wow.
And that's just the stuff right in front of your face that you can see. Like, you can count on like Ingram Spark and Amazon and
Right.
my personal online store. But I had forgotten to factor in like audiobook data because, Audible
That
doesn't
comes with
send you
it.
ACX data for like a month and a half after,
Yeah.
the month. So, yeah, I realized that starting in February, I sold like a little over 2,000 books in 1 month, you know?
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Good for you.
So
Yeah.
thank you. So now I'm finally at this point where I'm like, I can pay my bills through my books, which is crazy.
Hmm.
So with the second book coming out next week, I'm sure that's just going to help. And yeah, I don't know, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a gradual thing that just was able to grow because of consistency and tenacity. Yeah, that's how it is, man.
And that's great too, because you obviously had built a baseline with that first year on social media
Hmm.
where you were like, okay, this is working. I can see that as people see my book, they're buying it. It's not a matter that people just aren't interested. And then when you were able to get a video that got out to more people, you got more sales. And it's just a
Hmm.
matter of getting your book out in front of people sometimes in order
Yeah.
to, you know, to get it to hit. And
Hmm.
it's sometimes just that that piece that authors struggle with is how do I get my book out to enough people to buy it? Because I know once they see it, they will buy it, right?
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
because ideally your cover should be good enough that it should incite curiosity on the book, So if you can just get it in front of people, like if you can get people to look at it, like that's already a win.
yeah, yeah. Now I know you mentioned you're posting 5 times a week, which is incredible that you've been able to get to this point. Because I always hear that you want to post 3 times a day, you want to, don't want to miss a day, and all this sort of thing. But you've obviously proven that that is not necessarily the case or what you need to do.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you see these TikTokers who are like, the reason you haven't blown up is because you haven't been posting enough. You need to post 10 times a day. And it's like, bro, do you have a life? Is this the only thing that you
Right.
do? Yeah. But once a day is fine. I've worked in marketing before I started doing this, and I have
Yeah.
friends who work full time as social media managers and marketers. And the good rule of thumb is if you want to be in a growing state, you need to post at least 3 times a week. So if you're meeting that baseline of like 3 times a week, you're actually doing really well. But if you really want to like put your foot on the gas, like try to post 5 to 7 times a week. So I try to post like Monday through Friday, give myself like a normal weekday, once a day, 5 times a week. Um, and if I just have an idea on a weekend that I just have to post, then yeah, I'll whip out my phone and make something real quick. But yeah, once a day is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our listeners have probably just breathed a huge sigh of relief because that is, very much the opposite of what most people are saying that is
Mm,
necessary to even make a dent, right? And I mean, I've talked to other authors who have like 3 or 4 different accounts and they're posting to each of them 3 times a day. I'm
it's
like you
exhausting.
said, like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, I can't do that. I have a full-time job. People have families. I've got to write
Hmm.
books somewhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to chat with other authors. I don't have time to post 3 times a day on multiple accounts. So that is
Yes.
very refreshing to hear
Yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like don't hesitate to post something that you posted like 3 months ago. Like our good friend ZS Diamante, he's got it down to a system where he has like maybe like 50 original posts and then he like reposts his stuff or does like slight
Mhm.
variations on it like and just,
Right.
cuz it doesn't really matter. Once you find
Yeah.
50 that work for you, just post those.
Yeah, and, Zach and I have talked about that quite a bit, because it was an author, and Zach and I were at the same Author Nation conference in Vegas a few years ago, where they were talking about TikTok, and they were talking about that because I do the same thing because I don't have time to come up with and my ideas aren't that original from each other. Like I post up pretty much the same thing almost every day, but at the same time, some days I don't have time for that. So to be able to go back, pull something, put it up with a new caption on it. I mean, sometimes that's all you can
That
do.
works.
And
Yeah, and that's
and
fine.
and are you keeping track of the people who are watching your reels and your TikToks? Like, are you looking at any sort of analytics or that sort of thing to kind of see what market you're hitting or anything like that?
I pay attention to my stats to see how people are engaging with it. I mean, views is definitely like probably the biggest thing I pay attention to when I post a video. I'm checking like throughout the day of like, okay, how are the views doing compared to like the average number of views I get on a video? Like if this is doing really well, great. If it's just not performing, like okay, well we'll skip ideas like that in the near future. But yeah, like it's good to have a finger on the pulse of, how people are engaging with it. Like really good metrics to pay attention to are saves. Like if people are saving
Mm,
your content, that's gold. Like that means you're providing something really helpful that people want to return to. That's useful stuff. Like that's a really
yeah.
big green flag.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and part of the reason I asked too is, back to the repurposing content is because, when you dig down into the stats on TikTok anyway, most of the viewers are new viewers. They're not returning, they're not people that have seen your content before. So, I mean, the benefit that I've always found with TikTok is you're reaching people, yeah, who haven't seen you before. Whereas Instagram
Mhm.
up until recently has always been, I'm getting views, but it's people who follow me already. I mean,
Yeah.
which is good and important, but it's just kind of a different strategy really
Yeah.
to talk to those people. Yeah.
Well, Instagram does have that trial reel functionality
They do
where they
now.
only show it to people that are outside your following, and that's good. Like, especially if you have a video that does really well, like post it again as a trial reel or vice versa, where you start as a trial reel and then post it to your audience. Yeah, because ultimately you're trying to reach new eyeballs, you're trying to reach new viewers. So, trial reels, TikTok, those are great.
Yeah, yeah, TikTok, or actually, and I was gonna mention this too because, I mean, you were talking about how social media has really picked up for you in the last couple months. Where
Mhm.
I have found that social media for myself has really died down in the last couple months, and a lot of authors, I think, have felt that.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, so it's interesting that especially TikTok. For me has kind of just almost died.
Yeah, TikTok isn't as important to me anymore.
Yeah,
Instagram is
okay.
my main thing.
Okay. Yeah, and that was gonna be my question because, yeah, trial reels have definitely kind of filled that void.
Mhm.
Now, the other thing I was wondering too, though, when are you using TikTok Shop or are you sending people to your website or to Amazon? Like, how are people actually buying your books, and like, where's your revenue being generated when from social media, I guess in general?
Yeah, I do have TikTok Shop integrated with my Shopify, my official store. I think I've sold maybe 13 books through that
Oh, really?
channel. So it's like,
Okay.
it's pretty
Yeah.
small, but I've still sold 13 books. That's not nothing.
Yes.
What I'm finding is that a lot of my sales are like just through Amazon, like I think what it is, or people are just seeing the book and they're going to the place where they order all their books from. And
Mhm.
it's that simple. It sucks because this as a self-published author, you get like no metrics from Amazon or Ingram Spark on like where
Yeah.
people are coming from. But that is the one nice thing about having your own, store. Like my Shopify will tell me like, okay,
Tell you where it come from.
these many sales are coming from Instagram. These many sales are coming from organic. And I was looking at my analytics today and actually was really surprised to see that like Instagram is my number one referrer for sales, because I've
Really?
I've got my official store linked in my links in my bio. But the number two most common way that people get to my store, and by a very small margin, is through organic, through Google. So
Really? Okay.
it's people Googling the book, and when I Googled The Legend of the first result is Amazon, and the second result is my official store. So, people are
So they're
going to my
skipping
store to.
Amazon and coming right to you, which
Yeah,
is nice.
well, my book is also priced lower than it is on Amazon. Amazon, it's 19.99, and on my official store, it's 16.99. So I tell people you save like $4 when you order it from me instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that on my store too, but it's more to offset the shipping than anything because I mean, I
Mm,
don't have free shipping and I'm in Canada, so it makes it that much harder.
totally, totally. That's so
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah, yeah, but that's really interesting. So I'm interested to know what percentage. Obviously, you're getting more sales on Amazon, but revenue wise, I mean, obviously, you're getting a lot more revenue when people buy from your store directly. Are
Yeah.
you seeing more income coming in through your website, or is that still heavily on Amazon? Like, I guess, what kind of ratio are you seeing between your different platforms? It doesn't have to be exact, too. Just
Yeah, but I mean, I've got my spreadsheet right in front of me. So
yeah, there you
I
go.
would I would say the number of sales coming from my store is like 10%, you know,
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
10%.
that's
Uh,
good. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's split like that like 90% is like 45% Ingram Spark and 45% Amazon. Amazon actually gives like pretty good margins on like ebooks, especially, and even paperbacks. My 1999 book that sells on Amazon, I get like 650 from,
Right.
when people order it. But I get $8 when people order a paperback from my store. And when people order a signed book, I get like $17. So when people order signed books, I'm like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's going to help me pay my expenses. So yeah, that's kind of how it
Right.
shakes up.
Yeah, and but you raise a good point too, because and depends on how you've priced it out, but probably Barnes and Noble, you're probably making $3, kind of based on that range, right? So, like people will always ask me, where's the best place to buy my book if I'm talking
Hmm.
to them direct, and like, well, first direct is always the
Yes.
best,
Yes.
but Amazon surprisingly gives me more money
Yeah.
than any other bookstore
Yep.
if you upload it to directly. And I don't know if a lot of authors will just do Ingram Spark and think, well, they'll send it
Hmm.
to Amazon, but you don't get as good of a margin if you
No.
upload it
Yeah.
directly to Amazon.
If I get like $1.80 from Ingram Spark Books, because you want to like give booksellers like a certain percentage off at like wholesale, otherwise they're really not willing to carry it. So I make like
Yeah,
$1.80 for a paperback through Ingram Spark. But you know what, I'm happy to eat that if it means that libraries and bookstores can get their hands on it. They are pillars of our literary communities. Like, I'm okay with that. But yeah,
yeah.
like, upload your paperback to Amazon, sell it through KDP, because the margins are really good.
Hmm.
That I do the exact same thing as you. Like, I tell people,
Yeah,
my official store, best place, but number two is probably Amazon.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I don't know if authors always realize that, these places are paying out different amounts. You have lots of options, and sometimes it's easiest to upload to one spot,
Hmm.
but you're really going to maximize if you can take a little extra time to upload it to a few different places, right?
Totally.
And so now, I guess the other question I have for you then, because you're talking a lot about your paperback margins,
Mhm.
are you selling mostly physical books?
Actually, that's what surprised me, is that ebooks are like my least popular
Really?
format, which is like complete opposite from most self-published authors.
Yeah,
My most popular formats go number one, audiobook, and number two, paperbacks, and last is ebook. So
that
kind
is
of kind
really
of
interesting.
wild. Yeah.
So why do you think that is?
Well, I think Adriel Brandt did such a good job narrating the audiobook. Like, I see people all the time, they're like, this is on par with the Dungeon Crawler Carl narration. Like, this is,
Mm,
this dude's a chameleon with his voices. He really brings you into the world. Adriel nailed it. Like, he just crushed it. And, The Legend of is a YA book. It's meant for a YA audience. And teenagers aren't reading ebooks very much at all. So
yeah,
I
okay.
think through my organic content, through my silly, funny videos, I've been able to reach these teens that I've been kind of targeting, and they're having their parents order the paperbacks on Amazon or something. That's what I assume is
Right.
happening, but I don't have any hard data to like show this, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's really interesting. And circling back to the audiobook a little bit, a human narrator who is super talented is worth their weight in gold.
uh,
What
yeah.
I know
It makes
people,
it makes every difference.
it's so expensive to hire a narrator, and I totally get that. Most of my books don't have an audiobook because it is
Mhm.
expensive. But
Yeah.
when you can nail the right narrator for your books, it's amazing how much of a difference that makes and how much readers notice.
Mhm.
Because obviously, if audiobooks are your number one selling platform or format, there's a reason, right?
Totally. Totally. But I mean, it's becoming a little more common to find audiobook narrators who are willing to work for like a self-published author's price. When Adriel gave me his rate, I was shocked at how affordable he was. I'm like, really? Like, because for years, I mean, I can't afford $5,000 to get an audiobook narrated.
Yeah,
I don't make enough for that. But when Adriel, we got to kind of like negotiate, he gave me a very reasonable price. And I was like, dang, like, I've heard your sample. You're really good. Like, I think I can afford this. I think I can afford to. And it's made a big difference. It's made a huge difference.
that's amazing. Yeah. So now I am interested in your, I really am interested that your paperback sales are that much more than your ebook sales. But like you said, there's really no way other than assuming demographics to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that on. So I've heard TikTok is definitely a physical book format platform.
Hmm.
So I assume that has something to do with it as well. But I
Maybe.
haven't found the same thing. So yeah, that's really surprising. I want to ask you more questions about it, but if you don't have the data, I mean, it's just you just don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, just looking at this month, like I've sold a little over 900 paperbacks and I've sold 341 ebooks. So it's like
Wow, like 3 to
almost
1.
triple. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's nuts. I don't know of any other author that's like dealing with those same
on
kind of
an indie
numbers.
author. No,
No, because
no,
every
and
indie author, it's like ebooks are carrying, like they're carrying the torch.
the other thing that surprises me is that you are selling your paperbacks for 19.99.
Mhm.
Other than on your website. I mean, there's a lot of authors that I've seen on social media and that sort of thing that don't want to price their paperbacks for more than 12.99 or 9.99.
Okay, this is it goes along with perceived value, right? So if someone sees an indie book that, is priced at like 9.99, like in your mind you might be thinking I want to give people like a really good value for their money. I used to be the same way. And I get that. I think that's noble, that's terrific. But price your books the same way a trad publisher would price it. Show that you can hang with the big boys, that your book is just as good as a lot of the trad stuff out there where they're charging like $18 to $22 for a paperback. Because if people see a really low priced indie title, they're going to assume, oh, it's just not that good. This person's desperate to sell them. They're not selling well, so it keeps lowering the price. No, price your book like a normal trad book. Do it. It shows people you're for real.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, and I have definitely taken that mindset to. Sometimes I've lowered it a bit, for various reasons or for temporarily. But
Yeah, if you're doing a
when I
sale, like that's cool.
and the other thing that you can always lower it, right? You can always put it on sale or whatever. But if you set the base price for a higher amount too, then that's the expected value of it,
Hmm.
which I
Yeah.
think is great. I think it's great that you do that. Now, does that come from your marketing background? Is that how you kind of set that initially, or what made you decide to price it more in line with trad than a lot of the indie authors?
It was advice from other authors who were doing well. It might have been Zach, it might have been someone else, but it was like, no, like, you're in your mind thinking like, oh, I want to give people a good deal because that's me. It's like I know people are broke. I want to like give them a good deal, a good book for a low price. But it comes to that value perception, where it's no, like if you're at an event, you don't charge $15 for your paperback, you charge 20. I mean, I was just talking to other indie authors who were more successful than me at the time, and they say, no, like price your books the same as trad. Your books are as good as most trad books out there. So price them the same, charge
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you do the same thing with your ebooks as well. Your ebooks are priced not as much as trad because trad prices are ridiculous,
Yeah.
but you're
Yeah.
not doing the 2.99 or your books are higher priced on at least on Amazon
Yeah,
than
there are some exceptions to that where I actually like price all of my ebooks like $1 more on Amazon than they are on my store because I want people to come buy them from me instead of Amazon. But yeah, like most of my ebooks on my official store are like $4.99. They're $5, with the exception of like Foreordained, the first book in the Wesleyan Chronicles, and My Name is Hammerfist, the first book in the Hammerfist duology. Those are both 99 cents.
okay.
And I'm sorry, here's a plasma rifle is like a free ebook that you get when you sign up for my Insiders Guild, my newsletter. So
Hmm.
it really does vary. And then my collections of stories and poems are like 2.99 on my store. Maybe they're 3.99. Yeah, they're 3.99. So those are like my small, like 150-page collections of stories and poems and weird third things. So since they're a little shorter, I like price them a little less. But then on my store, what I'll do is I'll like make bundles because I can't do that on Amazon. So if you want
Right.
to buy the complete Wesleyan Chronicles, like all 3 books, it's $9.
Okay.
And I actually just listed a bundle of um, Legend of 1 and 2 where you can get both ebooks for $9.
Nice.
You could pay $6 separately for them on Amazon, pay $12, or you can, save a third of that by going to my store. Yeah, so it really depends. It was a very long way of answering your simple question, but it varies. It varies, depends on the book.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's always striking to me how every author has a different strategy, different thing that's working for them. I think you're the first person I've talked to, at least on the podcast. Definitely, where paperbacks are outselling ebooks for sure.
Yeah, it's weird.
And even that your audiobooks are outselling to that degree more, because
Hmm.
I have talked to authors who are like, yeah, it's 50-50 audiobook and other, and
Hmm.
an ebook. And
Yeah,
I saw
sounds about
the
right.
occasional paperback, right? Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's really cool. Now, so you're a year and a half into this now. You've kind of found a bit of a stride on social media. Is there anything now that you have found that you're doing differently that works better after a year and a half experience? How are you approaching things differently now than you did, let's say, a year ago?
Well, I definitely treat it like a job, and I do a lot more administrative marketing stuff than I would like. Like, I would love to have 3, 4 hours a day just devoted to writing, but I
Yeah,
do find myself just trying to keep up with all the business aspect of things. So, I'm working on a secret-ish project right now that I'll publish in a month. I'm doing a caveman cookbook, based on
cool.
based on my caveman cooking videos that went super
That's
viral.
awesome.
Because I'll do a week straight of caveman cooking videos, just promoting that cookbook, and
May as
then
well.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll repost all my old videos with like the cookbook plugged in. I'm gonna sell so many of those, man. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Of course.
but yeah, after that, I mean, it's full steam ahead on the third Legend of Us. So I think once I'm in the first draft phase, it's will be very cognizant of spending 3 hours a day, like knocking out 2,000 words and getting that first
Right.
draft done. And I'm going to try to release it by the end of the year. That's what I'm shooting for.
Cool.
But
Very cool.
yeah, I definitely that was a very roundabout way of like semi answering your question, but I am very intentional with my time right now.
Great.
Where a year ago, I was just working 50, 60-hour weeks, just trying to make it work. Now I'm to this point where I'm like, no, 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 no. We're going to do a 40-hour week. I'm going to work 9 to 5 weekdays, and I might do some work on Saturdays, but I'm tired of the burnout days because I work so hard. And then, after 3 weeks, my brain just refuses to keep working. And I have to take a day where I just lay in bed and watch documentaries. And yeah, I
Mhm.
am much more cognizant right now of like my mental and physical health as I'm
Great.
working on all this. So that's how I've changed a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, cool. No, and that's important too. And I think because for myself too, I've found that when I mean, because I'm still working full time. So I mean,
Mhm,
I, I'm always working extra hours. But when you are doing that, I find that the time that you are spending isn't as focused or as productive as it would have been if you had just taken the time off in order to
mhm,
rest because your brain just can't focus anymore. So you're kind of waffling here and there without
yeah,
any purpose, and it's taking you 50 hours to do what probably should have taken you 20, right? So
mhm, sure,
at
sure,
least for myself, right? But and also to that point, because I think that the dream of full time writing, a lot of authors are thinking, oh well, I can sit at my desk and write 8 hours a day. I would get so much writing done. But spending and you're limiting yourself to spending 3 to 4 hours of admin work.
mhm.
So, I'm interested to know, what does your day look like? What are you typically spending your time on? Within, let's say, if you get a perfect day where you get to spend 3 hours writing and 3 hours of admin work, what are you dividing that time up into?
Well, I mean, do you want me to just tell you what like a day typically looks like? Or
Yeah, yeah. Give me a typical day.
okay. So by 9 o'clock, I'm on my computer. I spend like half an hour kind of like compiling the sales from the previous day and recording them on my spreadsheet so I can track them and see, what's selling and what formats and, from what source. And then like I try to spend like an hour or two writing, like working on my current project, whatever it is. So lately that's been the Caveman Cookbook. And then I spend an hour, potentially two, working on nonprofit work. I'm the very part-time. I am the public relations and partnerships manager for Operation Literacy, a 501(c)(3) nonprofit on a mission to lift individuals and communities through a love of reading and writing. So it's awesome organization, love it, but it can be a lot of work sometimes, especially when we have like a big event coming up.
Hmm.
That takes me, probably to lunch or through lunch, and I take an hour for content production, try to make a reel or a video or a carousel or something. And then I take like 2 or 3 hours to do book marketing stuff, whether it's like working on my website or my store or trying to figure out ads, just kind of like researching and trying to figure out how to up my game. But
Yeah,
by 5 o'clock, it's like, okay, done with the day, stepping away from my computer, I go on a half-hour walk. I try to read for an hour, I make dinner, and then I watch TV until I go to sleep. That's a typical day.
nice, nice. There's a bit of a theme that's been happening in my last few interviews, and it's been about treating your author career as an actual business. And I
Yes,
think
you have to.
that is what it sounds like you were doing. You were looking at your sales, you're looking at your marketing, and you're seeing what's working, and you're not just writing and posting a random video and calling it a day, right?
Mhm. Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you wanna have your finger on the pulse on all things.
If you have one piece of advice for maybe an author who is to the point where they're looking at trying to make this full-time thing work, and maybe social media is an avenue, or maybe there's another something else that they need to look at, what would that be from your perspective?
Diversify everything, try to diversify where you're reaching people, try to diversify where your income is coming from. Don't put all your eggs in the Amazon basket, mix it up with Ingram Spark, Amazon, your own personal store. Try to get your YouTube page monetized, get your audiobooks out there and get them wide distributed. So, don't put your eggs in one basket, but this is actually something I mentioned on a previous podcast, but make your guiding star making your book accessible over profitable. Like, if you make your book accessible and try to make it easy for all sorts of people to grab in different formats or whatever that makes them comfortable, the money will follow. Accessibility is the name of the game.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about before about getting it in front of people, right?
Mhm.
If you know you have a good book, the hardest part is getting it in front of people. And to your point, if the more places you're at, the more people you're going to get in front of. For those who might, we've talked here and there about Legend of Awe, but can you give listeners who maybe don't know anything about it just a kind of a quick overview? If they're interested, they can go check it out.
Totally. So, The Legend of is a loving parody of the fantasy genre. It is about a boy named Sir Dashing Jr. who only gets knighted because the kingdom can't knight his hot, famous dad twice. So, he decides to go on his own adventure to prove I got what it takes to be a knight, and many misadventures ensue. And it's funny. It's got a big fat heart. It's got characters that will feel like your best friends, and people are just having a great time with it. So go check it out and look out for book 2 coming out on April 20th.
So go check out both of those books. Is there anything you can say about the second book without spoilers?
But no, it's the second book is more of the same, except the stakes are raised. Instead of just being about a boy who is out trying to prove himself, there is a serious danger besetting the territory of, and DJ and his friends are the only ones who can stop it. So it's still got the big heart and lots of laughs, but there's stakes now, and that makes it even more fun.
I'm excited to check it out. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be sure to link all of your links in the show notes below. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Lots of information. It's been cool to see your journey out on social media and watch you grow and be able to, make your full-time career with this, because that is super cool.
Thanks, man. It's been a ton of work,
Yeah.
but thanks for your support along the way. I mean, you've been a great
Yeah.
friend, and I just appreciate you too.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you too, because yeah, it's been fun. Like I said at the beginning, I don't even know if I hit record yet, but we've been kind of on social media at the same time, chatting, back and forth. But I'm glad we finally got to sit and chat face to face. This has been a ton of fun.
Absolutely. It's been a delight. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate it. And we'll chat soon.
We will. We'll see you.